Before we begin, the name of the show is Turn This Off. Frankly, we thought it would be good for marketing and at the same time make us sound kind of cool. Now, having said that, if you're part of the 5% of people wanting the same drab, boring, sleep-inducing content, by all means, yes, turn it off. This is Turn This Off. We're all about the journey, the struggles, and the triumphs. If it's great people doing great things, we're talking to them. It's your ticket to discovering the untold stories, the hidden gems, and the voices that deserve to be heard. Turn off the mundane and turn on the extraordinary. Turn this off. And now your host, Jordan Pauly.
Well, here we are. Here we are, episode 5 of the Turn This Off podcast.
5 already.
5.
Wow.
We're getting up there.
Whew.
Once a week, trying to keep it going.
5 golden rings.
5 golden rings. So I have with me a special guest. She came from afar.
So far. All the way upstairs.
From all the way upstairs. My wife, CPG retail expert / influencer, Megan Pauly.
Hello. Thank you.
Megan, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So I had put out a survey on Instagram.
Oh, I love surveys.
A couple weeks ago, and I said, "Who would you like to see on?" Mm-hmm. And with my great influence and now 300 followers on Instagram,
300 strong.
there was a resounding "Have Megan on."
Oh,
Yes,
wow! I'm blushing.
yes. So here you are. You are on. Now, part of the reason for having you on is so we can banter as to people, as a husband and wife, and secondly, to have a conversation around what you've gotten into recently, I think is maybe one way of putting it. So some context setting, and I'll let you do a bit of your own context setting, but I'll set the stage for...
Thank you.
Megan is a market research expert. She's been diving into, I'd say it's been over a year now, but I think you've taken more to social platforms to kind of share your voice on health and well-being, the food that we eat, the things we put in our body. And what's funny and interesting for me is having worked for Facebook, having worked for the social networks, and seeing how you've blown up on there. I mean, there was a point where you were, I don't know, getting like 50, 100 followers a day, something crazy, where I'm like clawing and scratching to get one, and you're just... taking things by storm, 10,000 views on videos. So you're growing an audience, which is great.
Thank you.
So I'd love to have you on to talk about it. So that's why we're here.
All right. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Great. First question, and we can keep this as informal or as formal as you want to.
Okay.
Like what made you care? What made you care about healthy food and eating right from somebody that I know through having dated and been married to you for quite some time, loves her Swedish fish, loves the, right? I would say that you eat like garbage.
I used to eat like garbage.
Okay, we can say you used to eat like garbage. That's fine. To now, like completely going down the other side of the road. What was that aha moment of, oh, this is something that matters to me and something that I want to share my voice on?
Well, I think it's a culmination of a lot of things, right? So my background is in market research. So I have all this experience being on the other side of the curtain, per se, working with these food companies and them saying, we have this new concept or this new food and we want to understand how to market it, or we want to understand what key phrases to put on the marketing to make people buy it more. Like they were so much more excited and concerned about getting people to purchase their product and not like, wow, we have this awesome, healthy, packed, nutrient-dense food that people are going to love. Like that came second or fifth on the list of like, this is going to bring great revenue and great sales and be great for our bottom line. And so having all that experience, and then I'd say, do you remember when I had GERD? Okay, so just for the listeners, when we were early married, like I was maybe 27, 26, I had a very unhealthy diet, and I was drinking a lot of Starbucks and a lot of coffee and eating a lot of junk. And at the same time, I was trying to exercise. Mountain Dew was my crutch. Yeah. So I think I realized a while ago, like all these foods, I was getting sick. Like I was feeling like garbage every day and was struggling to almost feel like I could breathe because I had so much acid in basically the acids were eating my esophagus. And I had all these tests done and all this stuff, but my body was really sick. So I think early on I learned, my doctor had said, well, you just need to take this omeprazole every day for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. And I was like, really? Wow, that sounds like a great plan. And I also felt like it was like a Band-Aid, right? It didn't fix the problem. And I started to drastically change my diet. You remember, I cut out coffee. I hadn't drank caffeine for the past 8 years. Cut out Mountain Dew. I cut out a lot of stuff because I started to realize I would binge on chocolate and candy and then I would feel like garbage. And it was like, even though those aren't like acidy foods, something about them just made me feel like garbage. And so I learned early on, like, wow, garbage in, garbage out. Eating garbage food is going to make my body feel like garbage. So take that and put that aside. And then we had kids, right? And I remember being a lot more aware of what was in foods and what we were giving our kids. Mm-hmm. We were like super crazy with Cohen. He didn't have any like sugar or cake until he was 3.
Yeah.
You remember?
Even the cake you made him for his first birthday, I think his smash cake was something like super granola. It didn't look good at all.
No.
He smashed it anyway, so it didn't matter.
It didn't matter. And his second birthday cake was like a huge blueberry muffin that in retrospect was probably not any healthier, but in my brain it was healthier than a piece of cake. Like I bought him organic cinnamon raisin granola bars because I didn't even want him to have chocolate granola bars every day. Like I
forgot about that.
Yeah. He was...
And then the rest of them were just like, yeah.
Yeah, once you let it in your household with your kids, then they all see it and all want it. So fast forward, I've always grew up with my dad cooking real food all the time, right? And I just always had this penchant for like real animal products and real from the earth, God-given food is best for our body. And then we moved to California. California has a totally different view on life, okay? And you don't know it until you go there. Mm-hmm. And I remember this was like the height of like vegan and vegetarian is like healthier for you. Like the whole plant-based is healthier for you. And I remember being like, but the ingredients are garbage. Like this isn't real food. How is this better for you? And so that cultivated this kind of fire in me. And then the past couple of years, I've done a lot more research on what's in our foods and what we're actually eating and take that back to like, I understand how foods can make you sick or healthy. And so, I don't know, having kids, I've slowly started stripping out things. I've learned more about seed oils and processed foods and how it's not really food, like understanding what ingredients actually mean. I remember turning a label around and just not even knowing what to look at to understand if it was healthy or not. Like I had no idea.
I think the only thing that I know about ingredients is whatever the number one thing is the primary in that thing, right? So if it's, I can't even give you an example, but you turn it around and whatever that first ingredient is, that's cultivates most of what's in that thing.
Yes.
That's normally what I look at, and everything else past that just falls away.
I don't think I even knew that until the past couple of years. Like I did not understand that the list of ingredients was based on quantity from greatest to lowest. So you should hope that bread, the first ingredient is like flour, right? Whatever makes up bread. Or ketchup, the first ingredient should be tomatoes. But oftentimes the first ingredient is sugar. And then you're like,
fructose corn syrup.
High fructose corn syrup. And then you're like, wow. So there's more high fructose corn syrup in this ketchup than there is tomatoes. Like this is sugar tomato water. And learning that, I remember standing in Kroger and saying, my mom always had this like sugar is bad mentality. She's not ever been one of those healthy like yo-yo dieters. She's always just been real food is better than processed food and sugar is the enemy. I grew up with sugar is the enemy. And so I would go to the store and I'd be like, well, I need to eat healthier, or I'm gaining 3 pounds. Sugar's the enemy. And I'd turn around everything at the store and I'd be like, well, everything has sugar in it. Mm-hmm. What am I supposed to eat? And I'd get so discouraged and I'd go home. I wouldn't buy anything. And I'd go home and be like, well, I can't do this. I'm just going to eat normal. And I guess these 3 pounds are here to stay. And I think as I've educated myself the past couple of years, I'm a natural trainer by, I don't want to say by trade, but like, as we've talked about the things I enjoy in life, like I realize I like to teach people about things. And so that's kind of all been a culmination of where we've ended up today. I've learned about this stuff and now I have to share it. Once you know it, you can't
Right.
unknow it.
You have to die on that cross. Well, what's interesting is, so then you started on the social side of things and you started sharing. And I remember at first it was kind of like a bit of an eye roll from me, and not in a
Thank you.
but not in a bad way. Just, I almost thought to myself, why do people care? Or like, why should they care? Mm-hmm. Not that it doesn't have value, but maybe I didn't see the value in it at the time. And then you started telling me about how, and even recently, you would get messages from people, or like the principal, one of our kids' schools, would message you and be like, "Oh, I saw your video on this. What's a healthy substitute?" And I think that's, number one, I think that's probably rewarding from your standpoint, whether you want to admit it or not. But two, it's cool. And where were we at? We were at some place a couple weeks ago. We were at a pizza place, and somebody, Danny Rasp, a guy that we grew up with and know, came up to us and, was singing your praises, and you were blushing a little bit. And so again, I think it's very interesting. And now I'm starting to see more of like, oh, there are people out there that care and are paying attention, especially on the social side of things. So
I think you don't know what you don't know, right? And like I said, with my marketing background and your marketing background, no one's teaching you the healthier side of things. They're teaching you and putting on the box and putting on the cover, like what they want you to know to get you to buy it. So people aren't realizing that, wow, this Smart Pop popcorn that looks like it's a healthier choice because they made it sound like it's better than potato chips really is no much healthier because it's covered in seed oils.
Yeah.
So my niece Hannah is 22, and she would come to me all the time and be like, well, what about this? And what about this? And I'd be like, well, that's garbage. And she's like, why? It looks healthy. And I'm like, well, turn it around. Like, I don't care what the front says. What's the back say? Like, I don't care how many calories are in it. I don't. Not at first. I care about what is inside of it. What are those ingredients? And she'd be like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, which one of these do you understand? I don't know what any of these are. I'm like, so why are you eating it? And after you have these conversations with people and you realize, wow, a lot of people don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So that is kind of what spurred me to be like, maybe I should start sharing this. Like maybe. So like I said, my parents are super, I don't want to say healthy eaters, but they are a cook from scratch family. Like my mom bakes everything from scratch and my dad cooks everything from scratch. Like my whole life was just like, no, we can make this at home. Like we're having a huge party. Who caters? Let's make everything from scratch for 400 people. Like that's just how it is. So I remember we moved back from Texas and I was on this like seed oil rant. I'm like, seed oils are the enemy. And I remember talking to my mom and I see her like slathering up a cake pan with Crisco. And I'm like, Mom, what are you doing? And she's like, what? I'm like, that's seed oils. Like that's so inflammatory. It's so bad for you. Whatever. You should just use butter. And she's like, butter? I'm like, butter is healthy for you. It's God-given from animals. Like it's not processed. Has nutrients in it. We've been trained and tricked that it's bad, but seed oils are bad. And she's like, oh. And then I see my dad like using canola oil to cook. And I'm like, Dad. And he's like, what? And you get these ideas of like, well, if these people who think they're eating healthy or generally eat healthy are using this stuff that's not actually healthy, like most everybody else isn't either. So that's where I am.
yeah. What's interesting is that people have lived a long time with some of these, right? Okay, let's take maybe a step back 100 years where you'd see the commercials or how people used to live and everybody was skinny and then bathing suit and outside and loving life and healthy, at least generally healthy. That was the image that was portrayed years and years ago. And obviously that's not the case anymore. It's more like obesity is rampant in the United States. I'm sure a lot of that, and I don't have anything to back that up, right? Other than sugars and everything. If you really think about it, People are more, I think we had talked about this earlier, pre-diabetic. What was that?
25% of teens right now are pre-diabetic. Of teens.
Yeah.
You know, like that used to just be the old unhealthy people that were like, oh, you're overweight and eating too many carbs, you're going to get diabetes. No, it's these teens that used to be like the epitome of health are now everyone's overweight and everyone is eating the processed junk and they don't realize that it's affecting their health. And that's a long-term illness that is starting early on because they're not eating nutrient-dense whole foods.
Yeah. You have to want to care, though. Because I do feel like it's paralysis. You mentioned before turning over a box of something and then you see the ingredients, and I don't know what half of them are.
No.
Like if we're going to the store and eating meat, vegetables, and fruit, you kind of get the gist of what that is. There may or may not be hormones or pesticides, whatever. That's just like surface level stuff. But when you look at foods and the ingredients are paralyzing to the point of what you made before is, it makes me not even makes me not want to care. It's like everything that I look at
Screw
has
this.
so
I
I'm
wanna
just
live my
going,
life.
right.
Yeah.
So thinking about that, and then I think what's also interesting, and I don't know the answer for it, but you look at your parents, they've been around a while. Mm-hmm. They probably grew up eating these things that we're now, demonizing, like seed oils, etc. So I don't know yet, right? Like the research.
Seed oils weren't even like a thing until like the 50s or 60s. And that's how it is with most things. Like even the processed foods are way different now than they were when we were kids. Like I've seen so many graphics where it's like apple cinnamon Cheerios or Apple Jacks when we were a kid, Apple Jacks when we were a kid versus Apple Jacks now, and the ingredients are so different. And so when you look at that and you're like, well, I used to eat as a kid. Well, you did, but it's not even the same food. And now everything's bioengineered. Everything's covered in glyphosate.
Is that cost? Do you think that's from a cost saving standpoint, opposed to using real ingredients, using more manufactured things from a cost savings?
Yeah. And if they can get that wheat or that corn to be bigger and gross, larger, then they don't have to use as much of it. Or they get more yield for their crop. Whatever they can do to boost their bottom line, even if it's at a detriment to our health. So I'm a reader. And I read this book, I don't know, a couple months ago. And it kind of has opened my eyes, too, to where our country and our society was in the 50s, which is not 50 years ago anymore. That's 75 years ago, to where we are now. Like this book was The Magnificent Lives of Marjorie Post. And it's a fictional book, but it's fictional on historical events. So Marjorie Post, her dad was somebody created Post cereals, okay? And it talks about like the whole Post company and basically the invention of cereal and the invention of like they bought all these different things as they grew. And it was like frozen foods was not a thing. Back in the 50s, no one had a freezer. And you bought your food for the week and that was it. And wives had to stay home and slave all day. And there was nobody was able to get fish because if you didn't have fish around your area, this wasn't a thing. Now you're able to get fish from Alaska shipped in or bussed in, whatever, frozen. And it just changed the game. And processed foods became way more rampant basically from these companies. It all started in the 50s and 60s. And you're like, okay, if you look back, like you said, in the 40s and 30s or way even before that, like people are skinny. People ate real food and the wives stayed home and they cooked real meals every day, which I know it's tough. Trust me, I get it. But like nowadays we are so used to just grabbing the pre-made processed stuff. And unfortunately, that food is not the same quality and the same ingredients as what you would if you just made it yourself at home. So I don't know. It's just wild to think about the way our society has changed in the past 75 years and the way our bodies have now been negatively impacted.
I want to go there, but before I do, and I lose this stream of consciousness, you mentioned marketing as well, playing a part in some of this. And as a marketer, I would say I tend to agree that the job of a marketer and most organizations is not to, of course, like myself, I would want to align with a company that has good values. But at the end of the day, I still have a job, so I'm going to market that thing. Like marketing is directly tied to sales, right? Sales is gold on selling the thing, and marketing is gold on helping sell the thing.
Right. It's a
So
tool.
you do find this gray area to operate within from a marketing standpoint of saying what's true in a kind of a vague way, right? So an example of that would be, and I think we've also talked about this before, you go, as for somebody like me, I like protein. I like to have enough protein in my diet so I'm not snacking, etc. So it used to be that I would go and get oatmeal. And you'd find these oatmeal packs or these things on the shelf, and it would say, you know, of course, called out in red, because red or yellow, because marketing, those are kind of trigger colors. It would say like 10, 15 grams of protein. And you think this is great. And you don't flip. I never would flip it over. I'm just like, oh, this is great. Good protein, whatever. So I'm just calling out the fact that from a marketing standpoint, you're just trying to help sell the thing.
You promote the positive thing in that food, like protein. And I remember you used to send me to the store for protein bars, and you'd say, make sure it has, you know, X amount of protein and X amount of sugars, like a lot of protein and not a lot of sugars. And when you just look at those two factors, you don't realize the other stuff that they have to put in there to make a lot of protein and to make not a lot of sugar. It's like, okay, what kind of artificial sweeteners are you using? What kind of stevia? What kind of junk hidden flavors are you using to make it still taste good without the sugar? And it's tricky because you have to understand how they all work together to understand what goes in your food and what you should avoid. And it's a lot. I know it's a lot.
Yeah. I have a request before we go further. Can you move your water bottle? It is in the shot. Was it there the whole time?
No, I just took a sip, so I didn't cough.
Was it in that chair the whole time?
Yeah.
You were in camera 1, and then you were in camera 2, that water bottle.
I don't understand.
Just don't put it on the table.
Great.
Thanks.
Sure.
That's for those just listening. This is a video podcast, so I put it up on YouTube as well on other channels. And Megan had her big obnoxious water bottle in one of my shots.
I'm so sorry.
I might even just cut this so they don't have to have that context, but
Right.
I might just keep it very organic and just leave it here.
For those listening, that's 14 years of marriage.
Right. You can say these things. Okay. So food. I would say since we've started on this healthier road, you're also spending quite a bit more at the grocery. And that's hard.
It is hard.
And even like we're feeling it, right? Like,
Well, it's
Yes.
twofold, right? It's threefold.
okay, I'd love to get in those folds in a second. What I'm saying is it's tough. We have 4 kids. They go to school. We have expenses. You have bills. You have mortgage. You have all this stuff. And on top of it, where it used to maybe, I don't know, $175, $200 a week would get the family fed. Just we normally eat at home. We don't eat out much. Now it's double that. And I understand the logic behind that. Maybe it costs more to have organic food or to make that food that in that specific way. Maybe it costs more. The labor's more. Whatever that thing is, like I can get
You're paying more for less ingredients.
Yeah, it does. Okay, I guess it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. Make
However, like not a lot of people can do that. So that's the other thing where I struggle with this conversation is I agree. I'd love to eat organic and things from the earth and have a paleo diet and just do those things, but it's expensive. And that everyday person can't go all in on, like I feel like we've gone close to all in. We're not fully there, but we're transitioning to like this all in mentality of eating healthier, and we feel it, and we feel it in what comes out of our checking account. So give me your perspective on if somebody were listening to this and you're like, oh, I want to try this. Maybe they can't go all in on organic everything or healthy everything because of the pure cost of it. Where do you start?
Okay. So I will start by saying processed foods are expensive. All the snacks, all the things in the center of the store, you don't need. At the end of the day, you don't need crackers. You don't need crackers. You don't need...
I don't need Cheez-Its.
You don't need the peanut butter filled pretzels. You don't need Cheez-Its.
But I love those.
But you love them, but you don't need them. Okay. So sadly, as a society, we've gotten to the point where we expect and we rely on processed foods because they're easy. But if we take a step back and say, what do I really need? It's just whole foods. If you shop the perimeter of the store, a store is set up very specifically to get you to buy certain things. The milk is all the way at the back of the store because they know that you need the milk. So you have to go through the entire store to get there and pass all the other stuff. The diapers is in the back of the store next to the beer. They put that there on purpose because they did studies that said dads would come in the middle of the night, or dads would come in and buy the diapers, and they'd also buy a pack of beer while they're there. And so everything is purposeful in the store. So that being said, if you shop the perimeter of the store, the outer square, if you think of it as a box, all the inner aisles, you avoid. Just avoid. Shop the outer. Shop the produce, shop the meats, shop the cheeses, shop the dairy. If you just buy real food and start there, it doesn't even have to be organic. If you just start there by not buying the processed stuff and just trying as much as you can just to buy real whole foods, it's way cheaper. It is.
Okay, I love that. Love that suggestion. We have kids, 4 of them.
Sure.
We're packing lunches. We're going to soccer. We're going after school activities. Got it. Okay. So how am I?
You can buy a bag of apples and a jar of peanut butter for the same price as like 2 boxes of fruit snacks. And that jar of that jar of peanut butter and the apples can make multiple snacks throughout the week. So it's like thinking like that. It takes a little bit more effort, but it's going to hold you over. It's going to be better for you. I know it's hard. I still, trust me, my whole Instagram page is about like healthier swaps, and we buy a lot of processed snacks, but it's real food is the easiest and the cheapest. So if that's your complaint of, well, America can't afford this. Well, America needs to change the way that they perceive what they need in their pantry or in their house.
Yeah. I'd also say that the priorities of companies who make these things, I don't believe the consumers first.
No, it's not. I started to think about, having worked in CPG and worked in research and worked in insights, you want to know how many dollars are spent to understand what will make a consumer buy something?
Oh, tons.
Tons. I mean, I worked for, I don't want to say every major company, but like I worked for Unilever. I worked for Nestle. I worked on Heinz. I worked on Kellogg's. I mean, every brand you can think of or their sub-brand, I did research for. And they would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, millions on research I worked on P&G. They spent several $100,000 to understand, like, if we change this small marketing on the Tide bottle, how much more sales will we get? It's not about, is the product better or healthier? It's how much more sales will we get? Mm-hmm. That is it. And how many times will they come back and repurchase this? Will they buy every flavor? Will they buy every flavor every time they purchase it? It's not about, wow, I can't wait to get these whole grains and nutrients into the customers' bodies. No, they don't care. Money is the bottom line. And once you realize that and you walk into the store, you start to see everything is a trap to try to get you to buy the something. And I have tunnel vision. And I say, okay, I need the eggs. I need the milk. I need the fruit and vegetables. And that's it. And the minute you go into those center aisles, I'm like, oh, they're really trying to get me hard to buy those fruit snacks. Oh, wow. They are really telling me that Gatorade is good for me. Like, once you kind of see past the curtain and see the lies, then you're not tricked by it anymore. And the whole, like, remember we said, you'd look at everything and you'd be like, well, I can't buy anything. I'm just leaving because or I'm going to give up on this and I'm just going to eat what I'm offered. They want that. They want you to, the more they put something in front of you that is unhealthy, you kind of get brainwashed into thinking, well, they're telling me it's healthy. They're telling me it's heart healthy. They're telling me it's going to hydrate me. They're telling me that these natural flavors are better than the artificial flavors. It's all lies. It's all
I love the hand motions there. So if I'm going to the grocery store, let's get back to this. Okay, shop the outside aisles, etc. I kind of harken back when I tried the paleo diet. This was, I don't know, a while ago, maybe 70 years ago. And it was awful, like the first 1 or 2 weeks, because I had to retrain my body, right? I had to retrain the fact that I was going to drink my coffee black if I was even going to have coffee, that I was just going to do.
That.
It was
black coffee days.
Yes, it was.
Those were the dark days.
It was hard. So when I go back to that, but I did, my point to that is I did feel better. I felt that I had more energy in the afternoon. I felt like my body could process the food that I was putting into it because it was real food versus all the other junk I was putting in there.
You do have like a detox period though. And that's hard for people to get over, is like, but I crave the sugar. I crave the junk. You don't realize every processed food has sugar in it. And if you cut out the processed food and just eat the meat and the nuts and the cheese and the eggs, you're not getting that excess sugar. So you have this couple days where you're like so fatigued and so tired until your body like catches up and starts to burn the fat and burn the, like reset your body. And so many people can't get past those few days of detox. And it's like an addiction. Like I said, my mom has always said, sugar's the enemy because sugar is addictive. I mean, there are studies that show that sugar is just as addictive as cocaine. Let that sink in. Our whole country is jacked up on sugar. They're all addicted to sugar.
And cokeheads.
And we're a bunch of cokeheads. And it's crazy because people don't even realize it. They don't even know they're addicted. But everything they buy has a little bit of sugar and a little bit more. And
or it's called something different too, right?
Oh,
and that's the other thing. There's so many different names for the same thing.
There's over 60 different names that sugar can hide under. Corn syrup, dextrose, maltodextrin, like everything. So it's understanding what all these names mean and understanding the labels, because they can put, what was I looking at? That bread, I think, had 6 different forms of sugar in it in the ingredient lists, but you wouldn't have known that there was that much sugar because it was broken out in all these different forms of sugars or sugar alcohols. And that's what's scary about processed food, is that you think it's real food, but in reality it's not. Mm-hmm. And that's another way that they want to keep you hooked with that addiction, right? They put that sugar in there, or they, you know what MSG is?
No, I don't have a clue.
Okay, so MSG, I can't think of the multi-gluten something. I can't think of the name for it now. But the whole point of MSG is to make the food taste better and to make you want more. MSG is in Doritos. Why do you think you just sit there and pound the whole bag? I mean, MSG is the only reason is in the food is to make you want more. And that's scary. So they know, these scientists, these food scientists out there, put these things into foods on purpose because they want you to buy more and to eat more and to just devour the entire bag of or the entire thing of Oreos. Who can have one? Nobody. So it's just scary, because that's another proof or reason to say they don't want you healthy. They just want you to buy more of their product.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, let's be honest, they don't care.
They don't care.
But you also have the option to not do that, right? You have free will to choose whether you buy that thing or not.
You do.
But if they get their claws in you and you're just pounding a bag of Cool Ranch Doritos with some Mountain Dew, then yeah, I think that it would probably be hard to break that cycle. Back to the point I want to get to, for people who want to try, yes, shop the outside of the store. And I believe when we first started doing this, and we still eat like this sometimes, but you go to Costco, you get a rotisserie, you get a vegetable, and you get a fruit, right? And let's say, and this is the thing about, if people have habits trying to break a cycle, it's like when people do a New Year's resolution and they say, I'm going to go to the gym every day. It never works out. Mm-hmm. It maybe for 1% of people would work out, but it most likely doesn't work out because you're not really forming habits, or you're trying to go too hard to form those habits.
Sure.
And then you're resistant to it. So I read a book called Micro Habits or something like that. So if we're just saying to people, okay, you want to try this, try it 3 days a week at dinner time, right? You pick a meal. What am I, give me an option of something for a dinner for people listening. Like, oh, okay, I'm going to try and eat clean tonight. What does that look like when I'm going to the grocery this week? What am I buying?
Buy steak, buy asparagus, buy sweet potatoes.
I hate sweet potatoes.
But they're so good for you. Sweet potatoes have so much more nutrients in them. They're like a superfood. And if you're going to have like a starchy side, have that over mashed potatoes or rice, which we love. And it's not the enemy in moderation. But sweet potatoes are actually more beneficial for you. So just focus on meats and vegetables. And if you need a carb or a fat on the side, go for it. But try to not buy like the boxed rice or the pre-made mashed potatoes or the something that somebody else already made you. If you're going to just try it for 3 nights a week, just try to make it, and it does not have to be fancy. Asparagus takes 10 minutes in the oven, and it takes just like a sprinkle of seasoning on top. Like you don't have to be a master chef to be able to eat healthier.
Now give us your asparagus, your thing for asparagus, because it's great. It's great.
Okay.
Just quick and easy.
Quick and easy. I love the everything but the bagel seasoning, which is a Trader Joe's seasoning, but now Costco and every store has like their own iteration of it, right? So I take the asparagus, I cut off the yucky parts on the end, put it on a baking sheet, cover it with a little olive oil, salt, and then everything but the bagel seasoning in the oven, 400 for 10 minutes. Delicious.
There you go.
So easy.
And you get to smell asparagus pea afterwards. So
If
who
you
doesn't
smell
love
it.
that?
Don't they say that everybody has asparagus pea, it's just only some people can't smell it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I always smell it.
Some people think they don't have asparagus pea, but I think the studies have shown those people just can't smell it, but they still have it.
Let us know. Let us know in the comments if you have asparagus. You can smell asparagus pea.
So my advice is to shop and look for ingredients that are whole, real ingredients, whole, real foods, and or minimally processed with the least amount of ingredients. So if you're looking to buy, like, I don't have time to make X, Y, and Z, pick up the package and find the thing that's like mashed potatoes with cream and salt. Like, you don't want something that's got a whole laundry list. I mean, if I pick up a box or a package and it has a whole laundry list of ingredients, I don't even bother reading it. I just put it back. I'm like, that's not real food. That's a whole bunch of garbage. That's not crackers. That's a whole bunch of stuff to make it look like a cracker. Mm-hmm. Because you can make crackers with like 5 ingredients. So that is my advice to you. Minimally processed, minimal ingredients. Less than 5 ingredients is ideal.
I don't need that advice. My wife does that for me.
She's really
But
good at that.
for others, what's one, if so you flip over a box, you're looking at it, or a bag or whatever it is. Through your research, what is one ingredient that's like not great?
Seed oils.
Okay. I was about to say, what is that? Is it soy? Is it seed oils? Is it like, what's the one thing?
Seed oils is a blanket term for canola oil, vegetable oil, cottonseed oil, rapeseed oil, sunflower oil. Basically, if it's not avocado oil, coconut oil, olive oil, butter, ghee, tallow, you don't want to eat it. Those are the safe, healthy fats. The other stuff is inflammatory, overly processed. I mean, there are videos that show you how they make this. It's basically, it started out as engine lubricant. And then they're like, how can we market this further? How can we use more of it? And there was this whole campaign launched to say that it's heart healthy and healthier for you than butter, which it's not. And now there's all these health issues that have been caused in the last 50 years from people eating these, but yet they're blaming that on red meat and other things that are not causing that. But in the long run, those are overly processed, bleached, chlorinated, not real foods when you can just use butter.
So it started off as engine oil?
Yeah, engine lubricant.
Engine lubricant, which you could also argue is engine oil.
Yeah.
If it's a lubricant.
Sure.
Okay. That's good to know. So seed oils. Got it. And or I would tell people to do your own research, right?
Oh, for
and
sure.
I'm not saying that what you're saying is inaccurate. I would say that you've gotten to the point that you've gotten to because you've gone down these rabbit holes and you've wanted to educate yourself more. So maybe a red flag for people is seed oils, right? Like take what you learn here or listen here and maybe investigate a bit more.
I would say Something else I look for is when looking at a package, seed oils, the amount of sugar. I mean, everything's going to have sugar, but is it corn syrup, modified corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup? Is it the first ingredient or is it farther down? Like how much added sugar is in it versus like if it's a fruit product and it has its own natural occurring sugars, that's fine. But if you have like 12 grams of added sugar, I'm going to be like, hard pass. I don't need this. And then I look for if it has bioengineered ingredients, which is modified anything. And a lot of times it doesn't even tell you, but if it's not organic, most soy and any corn products are modified, like 95% of what's in the market these days for both of those products. And you can usually see it. It's like in the ingredients, it won't say modified, but at the very bottom, it may say, this contains a bioengineered ingredient. And it puts it really small, and it says bioengineered because they know if it says modified, you won't buy it. They think bioengineered sounds healthier.
Well, that's marketing.
It's marketing.
Right?
It is. And the fact that they put it at the bottom instead of in the ingredients, they're hoping people miss it.
Well, yeah, no marketer, no companies can be like, let's put bioengineered on the front or modified on the front.
Yeah.
But they have to, I'm sure, because the FDA or some ruling, they have to disclose that. So they just do it in fine print.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I look for those couple things. I look for if it's organic, depending on what the product is. And then I look for any sketchy ingredients that I don't know what they are,
Well,
right?
that's all of them.
I know. But the more,
everything.
the more I've done research, I will Google stuff. I will stand there in the store and I will Google what is, sodium bromate? What is potassium dioxide? What is whatever? And I will say, okay, it's used for a caking agent. It's used for this. And then I will scroll down because the first thing will come up like, the FDA say this is generally healthy. I'm like, let's keep going. What is it? And why is it in my food? And does it need to be in there? And I've just learned what cellulose is, which is in a ton of stuff. It's a thickening agent, but cellulose comes from wood pulp. It's like wood shavings and like the froth that comes off when they like cook it, basically. It's like, I don't want but cellulose is in like whipped cream. It's in a lot of dairy products to like make it thick and creamy, and it's not good for you. So long story short, do your own research and Google, and just don't believe the first thing that comes up on Google, because Google's not always your best friend, and they want you to buy all these things.
Yeah.
So,
well, this goes back to the internet as a whole, and I spin up my wheels about this. Whether it's COVID, whether it's food, whether it's politics, the internet can support whatever narrative you want it to. And that's dangerous. And that's the power of information and the open web and social networks and et cetera, is just the how easily we can spread information where you couldn't in the past, right?
well, and now I've learned a lot of rabbit holes. They're like Google promotes certain information and suppresses certain information depending on what they deem is trustworthy or safe or what they want the public to really understand. And so I've started using DuckDuckGo, which is another search engine, and they don't have the same kind of filterization. And so it's really eye-opening when you search the same exact thing on Google and DuckDuckGo. And you're like, wow, DuckDuckGo is giving me all these like actual studies and all this actual information, whereas like Google just says like, this is generally regarded as safe. And I'm like,
Could that be, to challenge that, I'm thinking about from a marketing perspective, SEO optimization, right? So if I'm a big company, if I'm Kellogg's or somebody like that, I'm going to stack rank higher on Google than DuckDuckGo, because if this is getting a little technical, right? But if I'm on the media buying side of Kellogg's and I want to target you as a consumer, I'm setting up paid search, organic search, everything is set up to where I'm going to rank higher than you regardless of the fact or not. So I'm not saying what you're saying is incorrect. I would say there is probably these big companies that have tons of media dollars to put towards things, use SEO, right? They create articles, newsletters to help with indexing and SEO. And this is the nerdy side of me, to make them stack rank higher than, say, like if I'm at Kellogg, I'm not going to do a paid media strategy on DuckDuckGo. I don't even know if that's an option.
Right.
Paid search is an option, but I'm going to do it on Google. I'm going to do it on Bing and on all these other things.
right.
So maybe some of that as well. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, so people are paying to get you to see their stuff first on Google.
Sure.
So you can't always trust the first thing that comes up. But people do because they're lazy and they're like, oh, the first two things says it's fine, so I'm not going to look any further. I got to go pick up so-and-so from dance. I'm going to pick up these wheat thins and get out the door. And that's the problem.
Why wheat thins?
I don't know. I used to love wheat thins.
There was there's an app that you used to use, or you maybe still use, for, what's that app? You would scan something or look something up on this app. And it
The
would tell
Bobby
you,
approved app.
yes.
So Bobby Parrish, Flav City, he's has millions of followers on Instagram and probably other platforms, but he has this app called Bobby Approved, and you scan, any food, it's got everything, and it will come up whether he approves it or not. And his guidelines for like if it's healthy or not are pretty strict, and you can decide.
So basically, with Bobby, you can't eat anything.
It's
Bobby not approved.
No, yeah. There's certain things where he'll be like, well, this has natural flavors in it. I'm like, well, you know what? It's better than these other things, so I'm going to go with it. So you have to like take it as a grain of salt, because sometimes you can't find an amazing choice, but at least a better choice is sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
So you scan it and it pulls up the ingredients, and it says immediately if it's approved or not approved. And it tells you in the ingredients why it's not approved. And it will highlight in red all these things. And what's cool is you can click on it and it will say like cellulose is a byproduct of sawdust and it's highly inflammatory or whatever. And so you understand, okay, this is why I'm not buying this. Or it'll say like natural flavors can hide up to 100 different ingredients that are undisclosed. And you can be like, okay, well, that's fine. I'm still going to buy it. Like you can make that choice, obviously, but it tells you why he says it's not a good choice. So for someone new to the health and wellness game, if they're like, I don't even know where to begin, that is a great start, is download the app. It's free. And you can scan everything and anything.
Yeah. What's interesting, people download like the Fitness Pal and all these other apps to count calories and things like that. But I think even before, I'm just having the self-realization right here and now, like before you even go that far, it almost feels more important to understand, because you had made the comment before, oh, I don't look at calories, I don't look at carbs, I don't look at any of that. The first thing I look at is the ingredients. So I think that's interesting of looking at that first, because I'm thinking about, okay, if I'm somebody who's just getting started into this, where would I start? Like if I'm trying to eat healthier, why am I trying to eat healthier? To lose weight. My mind wants to go immediately to, oh, how do I lose weight? I work out, I eat less food, or I watch my calories. Those are like the two main things my brain goes to. But what you're suggesting, and I think it's part of the process, is understanding first what goes in your body, then the fitness, then the,
yes.
you know.
I mean, you can eat 1,200 calories and be like, I don't know why I'm not losing weight. I'm eating 1,200 calories. And it's like, yeah, but those 1,200 calories consist of a Starbucks Frappuccino and a Starbucks muffin, when you could be eating a piece of chicken and some vegetables and some rice and a glass of milk. And that's way healthier for you than the Starbucks, but they could be the same calorie intake. So calories obviously are number one, but understanding your body's going to process the real food a lot differently and absorb nutrients and give you energy. It makes you stronger versus the processed food. Your body does not know how to recognize it. You may feel, bloated and constipated and whatever. Like it will impact your body negatively. And so many people don't understand. I don't know why I just feel like garbage all the time. I'm going to go get another coffee. And it's like, but maybe the coffee's what's making you feel garbage. Maybe it's that seed oil in the coffee mate creamer that's making you feel garbage that you drink first thing every morning. People don't understand that the food they eat is a direct result into how they feel every day. So,
yeah, and I know that we've done this, I would say, for a bit, but I think we're paying more attention to it now, is focusing more on protein. So you don't snack, right? If you're eating protein, then it fills your body up.
100%.
So then you don't want to snack. If I wake up and I grab a snack in the morning and it's, I don't know, you find yourself when you snack, you just continue to snack because you're not really filling yourself up. You're just like, okay, I'm going to grab a snack. Okay, I'm topped up now. 30, 45 minutes later, I need another snack, another. Versus eating something dense into protein that will fill you up, drinking some water to curb the appetite, right?
Yeah. It's, I don't think I realized how much protein plays a part into our bodies until the past couple of years, right? Like I knew like, oh, meat, you have it every meal and that's going to help your body stay full. But I didn't understand like that is what makes your body full. Like that is what gives your body the energy it needs. I know bodybuilders and whatever, they know like protein's going to build my muscles and make them stronger. And it's like, yes, but it's going to do so much more. And I mean, back in the day when God created the world and he said, eat these animals, that's all people ate and they were fine. It's like, you don't need all the extra stuff, but you need what's in the meat to keep you going. You need that protein. You need the animal products, the milk, the eggs, the cheese to keep you going. And it's eating, I found, the past couple of years, we've started this egg revolution, right? Like we've started really eating eggs. And I can tell, I mean, like I eat 3 eggs in the morning and I'm not going, I used to.
What's in an egg? Like anywhere between 6 and 10 grams of protein?
6 grams of protein per egg on average. So eating 3 is 18 grams of protein, which still isn't even enough. They say you should have at least your body weight in grams of protein a day. So if you weigh 150 pounds, you should eat 150 grams of protein a day.
I don't even think I'm doing that. Like I would need to supplement that. And I know that's what people do, supplementing it with a shake or something like that.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot.
So they say to try to aim for 30 to 40 grams per meal, at least breakfast. So if you think you've got three meals a day, if you're eating 30 grams of protein at each meal, that's only 90 grams of protein. And then, okay, you're maybe having a chopsticks for a snack, or you're having, some kind of snack to help you get there. That's why people are all about cottage cheese and sourdough bread and things that are high in protein as supplemental, because that's going to help you stay full longer and get you to those protein goals. And the more you eat protein, the less your body wants the other junk. Like I used to love donuts and sugary breakfasts, but I would eat something like that and then I'd feel like garbage and I want to go lay down. I wonder why I felt like that. Self-realization here, right? And then I'd still like be hungry at 11, 12 o'clock. Back when we would go into an office, I mean, like my stomach was growling every time lunch came around. Where like now it's 12:30 and I'm not hungry because you know why? I ate sausage and eggs this morning.
I didn't, and I'm hungry.
Well, I made you that one sausage link.
One sausage link. Thank you.
It was the end of the package. Sorry. There were eggs in the fridge you could grab.
You're right.
But so if you're trying to lose weight or you're trying to eat healthier, focus on adding protein in, and you will be amazed at how much your body does not want the other stuff. When you're putting in the right stuff and you're filling it up with the right stuff, then you don't want the other stuff. My mom always told me, she says, your body wants to maintain status quo. So if you're trying to lose weight, you have to understand that it's this push and pull of your body's burning so many calories a day, and it knows how many calories it burns every day on average. So your body kind of knows how many calories it needs to eat to sustain your normal physical activity. And so that's maintaining status quo. That's why you basically weigh the same every day if you're eating about the same amount and you're doing the same things, right? So in order to lose weight, you have to disrupt that status quo. And there is going to be that push and pull for a couple days because you're like, oh, but I'm so hungry. And it's hard because you have to break out of that status quo. But the way to do that is by adding protein in so that you're staying fuller longer, leaner protein with less calories. So you're meeting your protein goals, you're meeting the needs that you're satiating your body. Satiating your body without as many calories. So you're able to keep going, and then you watch the fat burn off when you do that. When you're higher calorie, lower protein
and then
items.
you couple that with exercise, right?
Yes,
on top of that.
for sure.
You can stack those things in.
For sure. In the first couple of days, you are going to feel hungrier. But if you opt for protein snacks, that's why people, bodybuilders and anybody in the fitness industry are all about protein shakes, because they fill you up, but they are healthier for you. And it's not full of garbage if they're good protein, powders or whatever. But but that protein's going to fill you up and keep you full longer. So you're not reaching for all the other garbage that's just going to set you back in your fitness journey. You're like, well, I worked out today and then I had a Starbucks Frappuccino. Well, that doesn't not do you any good. And then your whole workout is just canceled out.
Oh, is it?
Is it? Wow. Somebody smart
This
told
sounds
me
like
that.
an echo chamber. I believe I said these similar things maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah, I used to be a big runner until my back is jacked now with my disc issues. But I would run, 5 miles a day, and then I'd go drink a 20-ounce Mountain Dew, and you'd be like, Megan. And I'd be like, well, you know what? That's why I ran, so I could drink that Mountain Dew.
Right. So you just canceled.
I just canceled my whole run out.
This feels so good right now, just sitting in this moment. Because it's like when somebody close to you tells you something,
You don't want to listen.
you don't want to listen. You have to come to it on your own.
You do. That's what marriage is all about. You can tell me something 5 times, but it won't matter until I want to know it.
This is documented. This feels great. This is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So none of this sounds fun, by the way. Like everything that we're everything that we're talking about for somebody, because it's a lot.
It is a lot.
So how do you still keep balancing nutrition? Because some people are foodies. Some people like to eat, and that's not for the sake of, like, nobody's trying to get overweight. Nobody's trying to be unhealthy, but some people really like the taste of things, right?
Sure.
I'm not a foodie. Some people are. So how do you do that? How do you keep the nutrition and still have fun and still make things taste good?
Well, I would say first, try to make it yourself. That's why there's so many recipes out there that's like, oh, so-and-so's dupe of this chocolate cake. It's like, it's probably way healthier than whatever you're getting at that restaurant. So try to make stuff yourself at home and try to buy healthier processed snacks. Like, I'm all about the dupes because I understand you want that cookie, but let's find you one that's not as garbage as the other things, and everything in moderation. So like I said, if you're eating more protein, then you're not going to want the junk as much. But when you do want the junk, let's make sure it's better junk. Let's make sure it's a better cookie. Let's make sure maybe it's a homemade cookie. Then you can make it as healthy as you want, but you're still able to satisfy that sweet craving.
I think that's important because for somebody listening, it might sound like, oh, no fun, Megan. Oh, nothing can be enjoyable. But so I wouldn't say the argument. The other side of this is like, look, you're still going to have those habits. You're still going to do those things. You're still going to reach for a cookie as an example. But there are better options out there. Okay, you still want a chip as a snack. That's fine. There's better option chips. There's more likely better options. Now they're going to be a little bit more expensive, but there are better options, right?
Yeah.
So it's not cold turkey.
And I'm not trying to be no fun Megan. Like, I love my junk food.
Not. I'm just saying, as somebody
sugar.
listening, it's
Right.
even for me, it's paralyzing at times because you're like, well, what's left?
Right. Well, and everything in moderation. I'm all about the 80-20 rule. It's not all or nothing, but it's when you eat healthier whole foods in your home than when you're out and about, or you're on a road trip, or you're out to dinner with your friends. Like, it's fine. Just eat the food that you're offered. And you may realize you feel like garbage, but at least it's not every day. And so 80-20. Like, we're going to go out, we're getting pizza. Okay, we're getting pizza, we're having a drink. But then I'm not going to have pizza and a drink every other night at our house, or equally garbage food every other night, because that's how you stay chronically sick. But if you can balance it and control it when you can control it, then you can let loose when you want to.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm going here. I think what's interesting about the things you mentioned in our food, the ingredients, etc. You were telling me, I had read some stuff about this and kind of gone down a rabbit hole about male testosterone or just testosterone in general. And the things that we either in our environment, whether it's a scented candle or,
Endocrine disruptors.
Yes. Those things, as well as things in our food that have the potential that have the potential to lower testosterone. And I always kind of thought, no, I feel this way because I'm tired, because we have 4 kids, because life is busy and we're constantly running around. And I will say, fun fact, and you know this, but I got my testosterone tested, and I'm 37 years old, and I have the testosterone levels of like a 60-year-old man. So, and I'm only sharing that.
Do you remember when we were trying to get pregnant with Cohen it took us, our first child, it took me like 6 months to get pregnant, which I know is not a long time to some people, but when you're told your whole life, don't have sex or you'll get pregnant right away, and then you don't get pregnant right away, it's hard, right? And this is when you were in your like healthier era and you were drinking soy milk.
Wait, I'm still in my healthier era.
Okay. But this was when you thought soy milk was cool. And
Soy boy.
You started drinking soy milk with your protein shakes or your coffee or something. And I remember reading that soy lowers testosterone. This was like, 8 years ago, 9 years ago. And I remember coming to you crying. And I was like, stop drinking the soy milk. You're the reason we can't get pregnant.
I think I switched to almond milk or something after that.
But I like, seriously, I went and I was like, this is lowering your fertility. It's all your fault. Guess what? He stopped drinking it and then we got pregnant. So maybe.
Wow, it was magic.
But I think it's wild to think about, like, food can positively or negatively impact more than just your physical appearance or more than just like how you feel after you eat a cheeseburger. You think about like Chinese medicine and you think about all these, I read a lot of historical fiction books with like medicine women back in the day. And it's like, they went out and collected herbs and they made tinctures and they did all this stuff. And it's like, isn't it crazy to believe that like food and plants and herbs are medicine if used correctly and also can harm your body if used incorrectly? And I feel like I'm going down this rabbit hole of research in my own life to be like, wow, what things do we need to be adding? Like, so many people joke on the supplement game, but supplements are like just nutrients that are found in the earth or in herbs. Like, people talk about honey, and we've been taught that like if it's not a pharmaceutical, it's not going to do anything. Mm-hmm. But I think society is now coming to the point, well, maybe these other natural remedies do hold some weight. And I believe that we didn't survive as a world. We haven't had pharmaceuticals that long, right? So there's other things in the world. I do believe that God made this earth and everything in it to heal our bodies. We just have to figure out what those things are. I believe that you can cure cancer with these natural remedies if you know what the right things are. I don't know that we all know what those are yet, but I feel like there are things out there that if used correctly can heal your body. And it's powerful. Yeah.
And then that just goes back to the fact of that, does the big man or big pharma or FDA or whatever it is just want to keep you sick, right?
Yeah.
Because again, there are probably things in nature, natural things, and maybe it's under a lockbox somewhere and they already know the solution to these things. I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist. I'm just saying that I do think the man wants to keep us a little bit suppressed and sick and relying on them. And, I need big pharma. And then, okay, well, now there's all these incentives for doctors to push a certain, like some of those things are needed. Don't get me wrong. But then there's, when you think about like the opioid epidemic, right? Mm-hmm. And how much harm that caused. But
there's no money in a well person. And pharmaceuticals is such a big industry. Millions, billions of dollars are in big pharma. And if everybody was healthy, we wouldn't need them.
Yeah.
So, yes, I don't want to go down some rabbit holes.
I just bring that up because these things probably do exist, and it's just kind of sad that they maybe haven't come to light yet or are starting to come to light more and more because of the internet, social media, and the spread of information, which I think in this case is a good thing to give people more options to explore a better version of themselves or being healthy or whatever that looks like.
I think there's a healthy balance because I think, the emergency room is a great thing for when people need it. But I do think that people are overusing over-the-counter drugs or overusing just like not looking for the root cause of their illness. They just want a quick fix, right? So, well, just give me this blood pressure medicine. I don't want to know why my blood pressure's high. Just give me the medicine. Where I think if people just took a step back and said, well, what is the root cause? Why is my blood pressure high? Why am I having these symptoms? What can I do on my own to fix this symptom before I last resort go to this medicine? Like I said, when I had GERD, she just said, take this omeprazole for the rest of your life. And I was like, but why do I have GERD? what can I do to naturally fix this on my own? Because clearly my poor diet is the reason, which I didn't realize at the time. My poor diet was the reason I felt like garbage every single day. And so I'm not against medicine, Western medicine as a whole. I think it's definitely necessary and a blessing to be able to have those emergency services or whatever. But I do think that people need to take a step back and say, for my everyday life, I mean, everybody, I don't have a statistic, but I could tell you every adult is on some kind of prescription medicine for one thing or another. And that's crazy, right? If you take a step back and say, well, what can we do to improve your health and get to the root causes so that you don't need these medicines? But no one's doing that. No one's promoting that because the medicines are making the money.
Yeah. I do think that, again, not backed by statistics, but maybe in my own personal experience, I specifically, I don't want to be on medication.
Right.
But I do think when we talk about medicine as a supplement, why you're trying to fix the root cause. So for instance, if I look at an older person who might have high cholesterol, he could be told why you have high, it could be genetics. And in that case, is there anything you can do about that? I don't know. I really don't. I'm not a doctor, but some things are genetically there. It could be that, oh no, this just popped up all on its own. I would imagine there's a good amount of people who want to try and get to the root cause of it, and maybe you're using the medicine in the meantime, right?
Sure.
The prescription medicine to help supplement until they can fix the root cause of it.
Sure, but how many people are doing that? Or how many people just take their prescription and say, thanks, doctor, see you in 6 months to check up on...
I don't know. I mean, I don't have that information. I'm just using myself as an example. Like, I know I don't want to be on medicine. I would love to find, right, whether it's a stress and anxiety medicine and trying CBD instead, or going from that to like coping mechanisms or other things.
What was that, magnesium and something?
I believe it was magnesium and vitamin D. So for a while, I would take, I think for 5 or 6 years, I was prescribed Zoloft for, it was more for anxiety and stress and stuff like that. And what's funny now is the more you talk to people, because it feels like people are more open about this now than they've ever been before. Like, I'm not ashamed by it, and I don't think people should hide around it. So what's interesting is nowadays people talk very openly about it, and you realize, oh my gosh, there's a lot of people. I have a conversation with somebody and they're like, oh, I take Zoloft. I'm like, oh, me too. So I don't know where I was going with this, but I was on that for 5 years. And then I did get to a point where it's like, I don't want to, like, if I forgot to take that for a day, I'd have to take that every day. And it was a low dose amount. If I forgot to take it, my head would spin and I feel all kinds of weird. I didn't feel in control. So then that's when we moved to California, and, CBD was a big thing, like hemp oil, right? But when you go back to things that are derived from the earth, were here for us, but, God created these things, etc. So I tried that, and I did find some, I believe, relief there. I don't think I kept up with it, but that was my own issue. That was my own problem for not having stayed with it. But again, people use medicinal marijuana and things like that. And that,
I'm telling you, the earth has medicines, and people are almost like brainwashed to believe that they're hokey, right? Or not good enough, or can't heal you. But I don't even know that we've tapped into all the benefits and magical properties that can come from herbs or, whatever to heal our bodies.
we went down a rabbit hole. Back to food, and then we'll have to probably wrap here in a little while. When I think about meal prepping and going to the grocery store, right? So you do a lot of our grocery shopping. It used to be in an old world where you would just go without a plan.
Oh gosh.
And then you'd come home with a bunch of stuff, but no plan. You spent a ton of money
and then
on
I'd
a
be
bunch
like,
of garbage.
What am I going to make?
And then you're like, this is how much I spent at the grocery, and there was no plan. So how do you meal prep now? Do you, for somebody where it might be kind of difficult or getting into it? And I think too, this is important because you can plan your meals in advance. So you don't have to think. So when you go to the grocery store, you can put on paper or in your phone exactly what you need. Go to those areas. Don't shop around. Get what you need and go.
So when I did my blog a couple of years ago, I did a blog post about this, and I can't remember the name of it, but I did like a meal I paid for, which I hate paying for anything. If you know me, I pay for nothing as far as like services or subscriptions.
I pay for everything.
You do. We are the opposite. But I remember it was like $15 for like tons of pre-made meal plans, and it was all these meals, and it said, here's the week. Here's all the meals you're going to make, and here's the grocery list for all of those meals. And I could just go onto Kroger Click List and just order every ingredient. And it was great because it was like, okay, in the recipe on Monday, we're going to use half an onion, and on Wednesday, we're going to use the other half. And it like helped because I used to throw away so much stuff because you'd use this random little thing for one recipe, and then you never used it again. And so it was a waste. So that was helpful. I'm not saying everyone needs to do that, but that was helpful to help me understand like how to even start meal prepping or meal planning. But now I just have tried and true recipes, or I search for recipes over the weekend or on Monday morning, whatever. And I come up with a plan, and I just write it out in a note. And I say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I'll say, okay, Saturday, we're going to do this. We've got plans, so I'm not making dinner this night. And Sunday, we're eating dinner at my parents'. So I just need Monday through Friday. And I will say, we're making these recipes. And then I will just like have a side list of the ingredients I need for those recipes. Mm-hmm. And then I take that with me to the grocery store. And I'm like, okay, I need these things for these recipes. And then I come home and I have all the meals. And it's like, it's magic. But like 10 years ago, I did not have that skill. I did not understand. If I want to make this recipe, I have to have those ingredients bought ahead of time.
Ta-da.
Ta-da!
Well, you used to even be cute about it. You had a dry erase board in the kitchen when we first got married.
What's for dinner?
What's for dinner? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm planning out, and I know not everybody's a planner, but now I kind of have a knack for like, okay, I generally use these vegetables. I generally use these canned goods, and I generally use these meats. So a lot of times I can go to the store now and just buy to stock on those types of things. And then most of the time I can look and I can say, okay, well, I'm going to make this stuffed pepper skillet tonight because I have all these ingredients already. So maybe I've graduated to another level of cooking. But there are those times where I'm like, I want to make this special, like, Asian recipe that needs this really wonky Asian sauce, and I will have to go to the grocery store for that. But yeah, I mean, you kind of get in the habit of the same olds. And so, yes, just making sure you buy those foods ahead of time.
And you've been really good lately because, I mean, we have 4 kids and we're going to soccer practice and running around like crazy. Crock-pot meals, I think, are for people who are listening with children, and you're like, okay, cool. I can go to the grocery. I can buy the food, right? I can buy the good food. Mm-hmm. But when we talk about fresh meat and fish and how that's prepared, that takes time, whether it's in the oven, on the grill, etc. And I would agree. And we find time for that during the week. But you also utilize other tools.
I have learned
such as
all the tools. Yes, meal prepping has been a game changer. And I just mean like making it that morning. Granted, I have the blessing and luxury of working from home. So I can like make our dinner at like 10 a.m. But I used to get up back when I went into an office and I'd make it in 20 minutes and then I'd get in my car and go to work, and leave it on to cook all day. But I've learned the crock pot's a game changer because you can just throw everything in and it just cooks for you.
And it's never dry.
It's never dry.
And like the meat's never dried out.
Right. I've also adopted all these different like vegetable cutting tools. I have this like chopper thing, and I've got this mini food processor thing that blends up the veggies real small. And I've learned with these tools, it makes cooking so much quicker. Like I used to hate making soups because it was so much chopping, all the celery, all the carrots, all the onions, anything else I wanted to put in it. It just felt like so much prep and so much time. It was like a time suck. I'm like, what was that cheeseburger soup you love? And I'd be like, I don't want to cut all those vegetables. And now I've adopted and gotten all these magical contraptions. I'm like, oh, well, that takes no time at all. So do yourself a favor, make your life easier. My mom made the comment. She was like, men have their tools to make their work easier. Women can have their kitchen tools to make their stuff easier. I'm like,
yeah, it's so true. When you were saying that, I'm thinking, If you're doing some DIY around the house and you have the wrong tools, it makes the job very hard. Like, can you still get it done? Yes, but I need a multi-tool, or I need this or that, and then it makes it so much easier. And that's why I'm realizing as I'm acquiring tools, it's like one individual tool for one very specific thing, but it cuts out so much time and makes it more efficient.
Yeah.
It's like worth having for me to only need 2 or 3 times a year. And you would argue that, but that's my argument back to you is,
Well, what was I making? Pancakes the other day. This pancake recipe uses just egg whites that you need to froth or whip on their own. And the other day I was standing there for like 5 solid minutes just whipping egg whites. And I'm like, why didn't I put this in my stand mixer? Because that thing would just whip it on its own and then I could be doing 12 other things. So work smarter, not harder.
Love it. Okay. I mean, we could keep going, but we can't. What do you want to leave the audience with? Number one, you're on social.
Megan E. Pauly, MEGANEPAULY.
I gave you that last name.
You sure did.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
So I'm kind of popular too then, when you think about it.
By association.
My brand is associated with you. Yeah, so
Actually, you're DJ Pauly. Wiki.
don't follow that. Follow at Turn This Off Podcast. Help me grow my following. Anyway, so you're on social. People can find you on there, right? You're all the things we talked about today. I think you're diving into and breaking down ingredients and what they mean. I know you've posted some things. You just mentioned it, right? The tools that you use, et cetera, in the kitchen, posting recipes on there. I think that's all wildly helpful. So follow Megan. What do you want to leave people with? Like, what is the future that you want for people?
Okay.
Right? When you think about like a healthier living.
Do it for your health now so you don't regret it later. You're only given one life, one body to live in. And if we don't make the healthier choices now and the sacrifices that feel so hard now, you're going to be sacrificing your health later. When you want to be running around, you're going to be sick. So it doesn't have to be hard. Don't get overwhelmed. Do some research and just try, like we said, the micro habits. Try to maybe just buy a not processed. Try to make your asparagus at home. Try to make this at home, or try to buy something with the least amount of ingredients. Just one little baby step each time. And then the next time you'll already know that baby step and you can try a new baby step. And it's just, you'll get there. We didn't start eating like this overnight. It's been a gradual, slow burn to the point where I eventually cleared out our whole pantry and I was like, we're not eating any of this. But that didn't happen overnight. It's a slow discovery, and give yourself some grace because nobody learns anything overnight.
Yeah. And you said it, but I think it's naturally be curious or like want to do it.
You've got to want to do it for your health and for your family. What do we say that this generation, our kids' generation, has a shorter life expectancy than their parents? And that's scary to think about because these children are sick. The food they're eating is mainly processed. They said that 50% of what kids eat are processed foods. It's like, that is so sad to think about. Like, Cohen could die at 70 and we die at 80. Like, we're no longer outliving our parents. I don't want to think about our kids suffering because of the foods that we feed them or the habits that we taught them early on. I think that's a big thing. Piper loves sugary candy stuff. And I'm like, we need to teach her what is good for her body now as a foundation so that she can live a healthier life as she grows up.
Sure. Yeah. I want to so wrap it there, but then it's like at some point we have to start holding businesses and organizations accountable as well. And I think we live in that age right now with cancel culture and all that stuff, which some of that's toxic. But when you think about the voice of the people and being able to stand up, because I think everything that we're saying is great and it all sounds good and well. But at the same time, you have people on fixed incomes and things like that need to go to the grocery store and they need to buy these things because they need to feed their family, and it might be processed because it's cheaper. So at some point, some of us, like, you have to, like, things have to change.
I follow this account called The Food Babe, and she is like on an attack against Kellogg right now because she's demanding all their cereals are like have so many harmful ingredients, and then she compares them to the European version, and they're way healthier. And she's going to Kellogg's and saying, why can't we have this healthier version? Why does ours have this much lead in it and arsenic and all these bioengineered foods and all this stuff that is making our children sick because they think it's, they are serving cereal and all these other foods that our children and most of the country are eating. And I think you're right. I think we need people who are going to stand up and say, I'm not standing for this. Like, people will say, well, you don't have to buy it. And it's like, I don't have to buy it, but I'm looking at the rest of our country that is buying it, and I'm sad for them. Like, they deserve better. We all deserve better, and we should have better choices because so many people don't know that the food is harmful, so they're buying it. It's like, I don't want rat poison on the shelf for other people to consume. And it's like, well, you don't have to buy the rat poison. Yeah, but everybody else is buying it, and they're getting sick because of it. Mm-hmm. So shouldn't we speak out about that? We should. It's horrible. We deserve better.
I love you.
I love you.
Okay. Hey, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
We could probably do this again.
Yep.
There's so much more to talk about.
Yep.
So follow at Megan E. Pauly on Instagram. Thank you for coming on. For all those who wanted Megan to come on, you're welcome. And yeah, thanks so much. I'll see you upstairs.
All right. Love you.
Love you.
You've been listening to Turn This Off. We love people, and we love talking to people to hear their stories, the journeys, the struggles, and the triumphs. From athletes to artists, from scientists to CEOs, anyone who brings something unique to the table. Who knows? Maybe you'll be our next guest. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope you got something from it. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at Turn This Off Podcast. And by the way, thanks for not turning it off. See you next time on Turn This Off.